Welcome back to our Scala class, and today we will talk about testing in Scala, and actually we'll talk about what testing is in general in software development. So there are different methodologies such as test-driven development, which goes all out on testing. We'll just cover some very basics today. So let's start with the types of testing we have. There is, in software development, we have different divisions of tests. And today we'll talk about unit tests, basically, which are basically a low-level way of testing each, methods, functions, testing a small, maybe even classes, testing smallest units possible for your application. And those are the kind of tasks you would be asked to work on usually as when you are starting out. Later on, of course, there are other tests such as integration tests, of course, which test if everything works. If some of the pieces work together, right, they are harder to perform a little bit. Also, there are functional tests, which of course test whether the application works due to the according to the business requirements, right? So again, they are kind of similar, right? Basically. Integration tests basically checks, okay, is the database working with a query? Functional test to check actually you get real data out, right? And of course full tests, right, with the full application. And again, then there is acceptance testing, which is basically for checking the whole application. Does it actually have a big checklist and check, okay, does it meet this application? Can you add new tasks? Can you delete new tasks, for example, for a to-do application? Can you edit tasks? Can you search tasks, and so on? And of course, you can also subdivide into things like performance testing, which is testing whether load testing, whether it's your application doesn't break under, let's say, 100 million entries, for example, or maybe if you have a network application, you test some network speed. Again, but those are the things we're not going to talk about today, just to see that they exist. And I will start, I'll start a new file, so we can put the links here. You can useful links here, Scala class object day 31 testing, right? Right, so add extends app, more about general testing, right? General information about testing types, different tests, right? And of course, where's my link? There we go. There's my link. Okay, and let's see what else we need, right? So also there's also methodologies, things like test-driven development, which maybe you'll have a workshop, maybe you'll have a guest lecturer who'll talk more about this. I know that Accenture and big companies are usually big on this. It's part of the whole agile development environment. Again, some projects go really heavy on this, some don't, right? Depends really on the project, right? So in a test-driven development, we can read about this a little bit. You write tests. It's kind of interesting. You write tests first, and only then you write the code, and you write failing tests first, right? So that's a very interesting thing about a little bit how this test-driven development works. But again, we'll talk. We'll leave that for later on. But let's actually write some tests first, right? Let's write some unit tests. So we'll be testing some functionality in our program, and let's check where do we actually. What do we test? Let's check maybe utilities, right? And I have some utilities. We wrote them a long time ago. We didn't test them. Well, they look, of course, they probably work okay. But let's see, we have a myRound function, and it has, this is a good candidate for testing because it has two inputs, right? And it has output, and there are no side effects, right? I mean, it's pure functions. There's no other dependencies, right? So we could probably test this one. Let's see about testing. And a good resource is from our friend Alvin. It turns out when he wrote a book, he had a chapter on testing, but he didn't actually complete this. It was not there was not enough room in the book for this part, right? So it's actually freely available. So this is a very good resource for testing. A couple years older, but still relevant. So of course, as usual with something extra adding some extra functionality, we'll need to install a library. We'll use a ScalaTest library, right? So we'll start with that. And again, we'll use the SBT, right? and we'll have to check. This is old information, right? And I used also, I know I used the newer version, right? So we'll need to add some dependencies. So ScalaTest. So we will go to our Maven repository, and let's check for ScalaTest. ScalaTest. Let's see what the latest version is. And we want this one probably. I think this is it. It looks like it may. MIT license looks good. I think this is it. Let's check. And we want this one here. Looks popular. May. Oh, it's fresh this month, right? So 60 people are already using it, so it's quite popular. Right, again, looks okay. So we'll use 213, this one here. Right, let's see. Type level, discipline, ScalaTest. Is this really the one I want to use? I'm sure, is this the one I'm using it? Right, ScalaTest. Let's check if it's actually the right, is this the one I want to use? This looks like, is this the one I want to use? It's probably not what I want to use. Let me check my other jars, because my previous project we worked on, or SBT, it looks like Scala language, or ScalaTest actually, right? So this is not quite what we want. This is from different framework. We have to look at this. There's 3 developers. That's actually might be a good, but this is not what we want. Looks pretty reasonable. So search. So ScalaTest. There's a lot of testing, of course. We want not type level. Oh, there it is. Yeah, this is it actually. I looked at first, right? So ScalaTest on Dotty, right? So let's check this here. Of course, the first hit was the right one. 16,000 usages. Okay, except it's not as new, right? So ScalaTest. Let's check it here. Right, and actually December, right? So it's actually quite. It's been around for a while, and I think I'll use this. Oh, April 3.2. Okay. Right, this looks good. 3.2.12. What did I use before? I used 3.2.10, right? And I used the test version, but this actually looks like stable. 233 people are using it, so this should be the one we want to use. So 2.13. They say there's Snap, and yes, there's a new version, but let's see again. I'm not sure about these Snap versions. I think this should be good enough. Again, we are not actually. This is just for testing purposes anyways, right? I mean, so I'll use this one, treat and test, and let's add it to our SBT, right? So where's our SBT? We go find our SBT, simple build tool, right? And we'll add it right after JDBC here. And right, so test, right? So we add extra one more dependency, and let's refresh, see if it's available. And well, it's loading, setting structure. Right, let's see what did Alvin was using. Alvin was using, I think, quite a bit older. He was using 1.91, right? So pretty old actually, right? But we'll be using the basic functionality, right? Then it won't be really anything extra. So okay, it's running, and I think the build is build complete. Download pre-built indexes. I think it's okay. Yeah. Okay, I think we are ready to go. So now we are gonna write this for first test. And again, so I'll close. So we are here, right? Scala main, right? Source main Scala, right? But notice we had resource to restore our CSV, JSON, database, XML, and so on. And we have a test, and we have nothing here, right? So let's use it. So make a new Scala class, right? Probably make a package first, right? Since it's actually gonna be on the same package, right? But let's see. We are going to use. Let me refresh this for utilities test. Yes, package this, right? So it should be just like this, right? So, let's see here. 22 new Scala class. Okay, let me check. Yeah. So class, it's actually class, not object, right? So it's actually a class. So new Scala class. Let's say what we're gonna call it. We're gonna call it utilities test, or something like that. Utilities test. right? Let's see, is the packaging gonna be okay? Probably not, right? Yeah, cancel for now. I think we need to add package first, right? So it'll be easier, right? Cancel, we'll do it later. Yeah, not, so we won't probably do inside here, right? Com GitHub Wallet series again. So cancel. I don't want to move it. I'm just going to delete it. All right. So since I don't have a structure, I'm going to copy the same structure. It's better, right? So I'll delete basically. It's not in a REPL, so I'll just delete it here. Yes. Okay. And we want to structure new package, right? I guess package. So com GitHub Val RCS, right? That should work. Yeah, okay, there we go. Now we can go here and we can do it automatic. Again, I mean, of course I could have done this by hand, but rather do it here. So in class test util test, maybe it's like this, right? Yeah, something like that. Util test. And again, of course, because util, right? I'm going to be testing this class, right? So util test. Okay, that looks good. Add. Right, and so we are not extending app, we are gonna extend the font suite. Yeah, font suite or any font suite. Extends any font suite. Okay, so we'll need to import it, right? Import, right, from org ScalaTest font suite. So any function suite. So okay, so we could run the tests, of course, now, right? We actually can run the tests here. However, let's make some tests, right? So basically we're gonna use test, right? Test. And we need to name it. Test name, right? We'll call it something something like, yeah, what we're going to utilities, util random, util, what is it, round. What are we testing? We're testing my round. Okay, my round. Again, let's stick to this style. My round, right? Right. Okay, that's my test. All right. So where does this test come from? That comes from this any fence by extending fun suite or functional suite, right? We gain access to this test. So basically, now we just all it remains to do, write some tests, right? We have our scaffolding, right? Write some tests, right? So we are basically going to use assert. There are other ways of doing it, but I'll just use assert like I've been doing before. Basically assert something, right? So basically assert, right? It's saying assertion is like a statement saying, okay, I'm asserting that this is true, right? So again, so this is a way of, I mean, again, I could have written these tests without this framework. I could have written tests by hand, right? I could have add maybe a special object or maybe a separate application to test. But again, this is a way of organizing these type of tests and using these libraries again, which will let you nicely integrate in your basically in your workflow. So let's say, can we test something like this? So utility, my round, right? And we can test if whether a double, right? Precision 1.4, right? Precision 0, right? 1 probably, right? Or position 0. Let's see, does it work? Oh, it's actually already, right? Equals what? Triple equals, right? Triple equals, I think 3. Let's see, yeah. Triple equality, right? This is everything exactly, right? So they have to be exactly. Now let's see. Is this actually true? Should this be true? It's a double, right? So this should be 3.0, right? Let's do that, right? If we're testing, not here, but util test, right? Should be 3.0, right? Right? Yeah. Okay, because it's getting you out double, so we should be testing for doubles, right? And of course, testing, checking double equality, double float equality can be tricky, right? Of course, right? So let's see, let's run this test, right? Let's run it. My round. And we should see it either failing or not failing, right? Test. Okay, green. Look at this. It's nice. Again, it's psychologically, it's really nice. You see, nice test. Okay, testing started. we have test results, everything worked. We have one test, right? So let's make a test which can fail, right? Let's make a test, Control D, right? I'll say maybe 3.1 again, 14159, right? And let's check. Precision will be maybe 2. And this is again, I make a mistake, right? This should fail, right? So this will fail, right? Now let's check. I'll run it again. Yes, okay, so this is good. Test failed. Okay, you see? And you see again, so 3, and you see exactly what failed, right? Expected 3.0, actual 3.14. Again, so this is what you get by using this functional suite, right? You have this extra, and IntelliJ also incorporates this, so it supports this way of working. So you see tests, you see what failed, right? ScalaTest failure location, right? Right, and you can see what, you know, what was expected, right? On, you see nicely, you can see, okay, what you get or what you didn't get. Okay, let's write one more failing test. Maybe this should be 4, right? Let's see 2. Let's fail twice. Let's fail twice, right? And again, let's check. Let's fail twice. Again, I could run, I think, here too, right? It's already warning me that I am failing tests here already. Let's run it again. Okay, so I have 2 failures. So actually, it should fail twice. It should mention, right? Right, 3.4, and it should also mention the, or maybe actually it stopped here immediately. Let's see. It actually should show both tests actually, right? Assertion, right? So let's see here. Rerun failed tests, right? Rerun failed tests. Actually, it says here. Right. Again, you see, okay, so, okay, if I fix this, right, if I see this should be what, 3.14, right, or 3.14, right, I hope so, right, I hope so. Let's run it, let's rerun it. Yeah, so, again, 3.146, right, did not equal, right, of course, again, so we know this should be correct, of course we know the function works correctly, right, again, so why write tests? Because, well, again, you want to have, you want to cover some cases, right, see what happens, right, and also you want to basically, for example, like an application like SQLite, right, it's in a different language, but it has about 70,000 tests. This makes very robust, because sometimes things fail unexpectedly, right? Here, of course, you don't think, okay, simple unit test, right? Nothing, I mean, you worked once, but it's possible sometimes by accident, right? I mean, you are working on utilities and you decide again, it's maybe late or it's very too early, right? And you work on something and you change, okay, you think, okay, maybe I can make slightly improvement. Again, you make an improvement, think, okay, this will work even better, but you actually break you start failing in some of these tests. So tests are important of actually ensuring your program keeps working even after you keep make changes, basically, right? So so we have some tests, right? And let's do more tests, right? So we have 3 tests now. They should probably not fail, right? Let's run it. Right, you can run it here also, I think, yeah. And we have, right, and actually, right, so I wrote 3 tests inside, 3 assertions. Well, actually, it's probably better even to do multiple tests. So I can do test, I could do one more, right, test util, I'll call it, again, the name is not util, my round, I'll call it maybe something zeros, you know, zero testing, zeros, something like that. Okay, I'll test zeros for example, separately. Maybe I'll just test zeros. Let's check, and I'll do something like, right. Let's say I want to test that this is, you know, 0. Right, something equals with 0, right, is equals actually 0.0. Right? Let's check. Let's run this one test. Yeah, Okay, so I should see basically two tests. There should be a way of testing, seeing sort of alphabetically. Let's see. It should show all tests. Yeah, but I want to see results. There was somewhere here. Where am I missing here? I want to run both, right? I want to run both. Two tests pass. Okay, that's good. I want to see two tests pass. See, I can run them single, but of course, usually I want to run a test suite, right? A suite. Suite, of course, meaning, you know, multiple rooms in a hotel, right? So multiple tests, right? A test suite. So let's see here. I want to see maybe there was a test history. Of course, I can see exactly my history here, what happened here, right? The test running. But I also want to see the show ignored. I want to see the tests which passed. Okay, here, maybe you can see it here. Oh, there you go. You can see them here, right? But I want to see also nice pictures. Sometimes, you know, you can see what's passing, right? So testing started. Everything's good, right? There was maybe possible to add some more options. See, there's a way actually of seeing all the tests you run here, right? It's nice, just psychologically it feels better. Maybe it's been removed now by sort by duration. You can see those by test results. Oh, there. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so this was a passing test, right? So you have the option show pass again. So by definition, again, if you have 100,000, well, okay, 100,000 maybe is too much, but if you have 500 tests, right, you don't want to see the ones which are passing. You're interested in what's failing, right? You are interested in the failing tests. So that's why this check mark was not active. Okay, but of course now, since we have a very small test suite, we actually basically, you know, I am turning on the check mark because I want to see these nice little check marks when the tests run and when they succeed. Right. Okay, let's do a few more tests for the utilities again. So what kind of tests what kind of tests can we do? Right. We can basically do anything where we can check with these direct equality, right? When we have results. Of course, we could test, for example, negatives, right? We could test something negative, see how that works. That would be that'd be good. Negative, right? Something like minus 1 point, right? And this should be what? I don't know what should be actually. That should be -2, right? That's a good test actually. -2, right? -2.0, right? So let's check. Right, I don't know what's going to be actually. Let's see if this will find an error here, right, for rounding negative numbers. Right, let's check. Let's run single. Yeah, it worked. If I run everything here, yeah, I have 3 tests passing. There was positive, right? My round, I maybe should rename it as positive, right? Positive values, right, and so on, right? Again, so that would be basic. Of course, you always want to check zeros, ones, negative numbers, positive numbers. You could, of course, check something bigger. Of course, you could add more tests here, right? So again, usually you want to test very small, a couple assertions in a single test, right? Don't test too many in a single test, right? Because then you gain a nice little list of tests, right? This is actually kind of, you have 3 tests in once, basically, right? You could move these to separate tests, right? Again, sometimes you want, I mean, they're related, right? And of course, if you could figure out some, maybe you could I mean, you are free to make a loop here, which changes precision, and maybe you figure out something what should make some automated decision making, right, for tests. And again, for example, in test-driven development, the idea is you check if you need this functionality. You first fail the test on purpose, and then you add the functionality later on. But okay, so let's test something else besides my round. Let's see what we have in utilities. We have delta ms, right? We could test that. It depends on this, but that's okay, because again, we have internal, right, long precision, right, time, not long precision, and it divides delta ms. We could test that. Again, it's harder to test, of course, get text from text file, right? Because then you need a text file actually to be tested, right? So that's probably not something we want to test right now. Saving also is harder to test, save lines as well. Next time we could test, of course, this if you have some sort of way of checking, right, some web resource, right. Now, of course, this test will fail if we have this, if the whoever owns this URL is actually change the resource. Of course, this is sort of almost, it's like a unit. It's not really more. It's like almost like a functionality testing, right? Almost like a functionality test, basically, right? From web and save, get list of files. Is file there? Yeah, we could again. We need, of course, text. Add the file here and get character count. That would probably work, right? So we entering array of strings. We could test that, right? We could test this here, right? Get character count. Lines makes line new line, right? So we build up a string, right, and return length, right? Simple. So we just basically add some lines. Let's test that. Pretty simple. So test. And I believe there was a way of. I wonder if there's a way of doing it automatically. Can you make a test of it? There was maybe a way to automatically do this. There should be there may be a plugin. I think there was something you could do it immediately, so you create it automatically, right? A stub, right? But maybe I am not create this because of course doing by hand is. It'd be nice if there. I think because it's the first part is automatic, right? Utilities, what we call it here. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. That's why. Okay, I'm in the wrong file. So here we go, right? So. Right, so test util something like get word count, get character count, right, and again, and I'll assert, maybe I'll make a array, maybe while array, I need some fake data, right? So array of this Scala, right? So that should be 11, right? No, sorry. So we have a 5, 11 should be 12. So 11. So 11 characters plus new line between, right? So should be answer should be 12, right? Of course, again, so we're adding these tests after the fact, right? So this array of string, right? So we'll test basically assert that utilities, get lines, get text, what is it? Get text lines array, no, but what is it called? My round, no. Oh, here. Get character count, right? Array, right? Equals triple equals 12, right? Now let's check. That should be 12, right? Okay, so testing started, everything works. Let's run the whole thing. Let's run everything. So now should we have 4 tests should be working now. Nice little check marks, everything works, right? Again, so yeah, so you need to add some data basically, right? Some temporary data you test, right? Those are the easiest. So this classic unit test, you have some data points, right? And of course, you should probably test also, maybe, for example, try some crazy tests, like things like this, right? Test blank, right? Maybe, and I will do basically an array like this, right? Array a string, right? What will happen? String, right? Am I doing it correctly, right? And this is going to be nothing, right? Empty, right? This is empty string, right? Yeah, array string, right? Yeah, array string, and this should be 0, right? I hope, right? I don't know. I still be 0, right? You have empty array. We have to decide, of course. This has to be decided again. If you're doing test-driven development, you have to decide when you write test what the answer should be, right? So it's like writing a specification. What should the answer be, right? So this should be blank, right? So blank test. No. Let's check this one. Oh, sorry, not like that, but this. Yeah, it works. So I can run everything. I'll run every test now. Yeah, all right. So testing started again. And I have my tests are passing, of course, again. So that's a good sign, of course. But of course, I added them after the fact. So of course, I could tell. I mean, I can always, you know, say, okay, I want, to, you know, it's. That's why it's better to do the tests first, because then you can sort of you're forced to come up with some test cases, right? I mean, after the fact, it's easier to come up with the explanation, right? But yeah, again, so when how many tests are enough? Again, probably for this type of simple functions, I mean, you probably don't need too many. Just 1 or 2 tests is fine, right? And again, it could be just one person could be just writing tests, right? It's separate. It could be a separate, actually, a job designation in a bigger project, right? Somebody who just writes tests, basically. But for smaller projects, of course, you do write your own unit tests, right? You write your own unit tests like these, and then you basically run it, and then it's a good sign. Again, it's something. Again, it's you know, when you talk with you know, stakeholders, management, you say, okay, here my tests are working. Again, it helps you show where the problem could arise. I know some people who are really like tests, and I mean, they write more tests than I do, of course. But again, it's a good practice in general. But of course, you know, some people like writing programs more, right? I'm actually, I like, of course, writing, shooting from the hip, so to say, right? The more cowboy style, but again, testing it's again on a bigger project. Especially if you join existing project and you see tests, right? You see the style they're written in, and you follow that style. Okay, let's do some more tests. Let's do for our game, right? We have a game. Let's see our time. Right, I hope you got the idea, right, what we can do with tests. Well, we don't have much time, but we'll do it. So, time flew fast. So, we will do, we'll make a new one, right? So, I'll do nim test, right? New, Scala class, nim test, right? Extends, again, extends, causes any fun suite. I forget already. Any fun suite, any fun suite, right? And we need to, of course, import it, right? And now, what do we want to test, right? We could test. We'll do also some small things. Let's check, right? Where's our name? Okay, utility. If we finish utility test, we don't have this. Date 21 scores. We don't need. Where's our resource Scala? Cancel. So our 26. Or nim data. Or nim AI. Perhaps let's check nim AI. Right? Let's do that. Right? So we could, of course, check. Right? We could check computer move. Right? Right? See how it works. Right? This get computer move, that's fine. Again, we'll just get smart strategy, right? So we could test this one, right? Let's test this. Sure, why not? Test, right? Will be nim AI. Capital, right? And we called it smart strategy, right? Smart strategy. Right? Again, of course, name doesn't have to match, but since get smart strategy, right? Again. All right. And so again, we can do a cert, right? And we'll do something like again. We can do so nim I, get smart strategy, right? And again, so what if we have 4, right? It should be equal to 1, right? Right? Correct? Because we have 4, which is of course this. So sorry. If it's 4, or move should be if it's 4, it should move be 3, right? So again, tests, right? So it should be 4, it should be 3, right? So on. And we can't, thing is, we can't really test randomness, right? That's the thing. We can't really test randomness, right? So we can test only, you know, because when you're losing, you can't really test that randomness. This is best. So 4, let's do maybe, you know, 5, and say 6. So that's losing. That's, we can't test that. We can do only test for, say, you know, so this would be, you know, let's do 0. So would be, say, 2, right? Move should be 1, right? And again, 3, move should be 2, right? Makes sense, right? Let me arrange it around, right? Again, I could put these in separate tests, but let's run it again. So same thing, and we can right. So test passed, everything's good, right? You do have option. Okay, so that's the basic idea of behind the unit testing. Everything works. Again, I can run my tests, right? And also I can probably run multiple tests, right? My tests run. Okay, everything's great. All right. And of course I could test stupid. Of course, testing stupid strategy would be pretty easy, right? Test not much to test, right? It's almost like silly, right? It's pretty silly, but so I'm not going to even bother with this. But again, sometimes it makes sense to add this. Again, you think, okay, right, why? So this test is like an extra check. It's like checks and balance, like in a government, right? You have different branches of government checking on each other. Well, tests are checking on your program, basically. But let's see, on our Alvin mentions there's also some other syntax. We can use another syntax on so in a test-driven development, right? So there is a style, right? So I use the cert, right? Actually, that's what I'm using, right? Test, right? So this is a test-driven type style, right? And it's fine, and that's what I usually would use, right? I'll show you there's also another style you can use, so-called behavior-driven development, right? And this is this is test drive, right? And also we can also notice something here. There's also before and after, right? This is, you add something. Maybe you need to create some temporary object for tests, right? Like for testing database, right? Or testing a game state movement, right? You need maybe a before, right? So we'll need to add something this. So for name game, possibly, and after also, right? So this, what is this? This is basically what we'll need to have check. Basically, we need to have, if you're testing some object, right? Let's say, so we'll add that, right? So not in this one, here. So it will ask. You don't have pizza. You don't have before, right? So before. No, but this is in where it should be here. It should be here. It's not telling me that, but let's see here. Should be available. Maybe it's not maybe it's not there anymore. Interesting. Before and after. Maybe there's different way of it. What did I? Class var pizza is nothing. Ah, okay. Well, okay. Game. No. Right. Right, so we'll do this. You know, not pizza, but of course game. You know, name. Yeah. Okay. And then this will be, this is what we would do. Name equal something. Name, and we'll do some players, right? Some Valdis, you know, Valdis computer, and I forget now. Oh no, we need to import, of course, name, right? It's not picking up. Where's my name? Where's my name? Name, right? Import. So why is it not picking up? Ah, new, sorry, new, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, of course. And why is it not picking up before? It should have picked up, right? This may be. We need to check this ScalaTest. See, maybe they changed this, right? So again, of course you could do this here directly, right? Without this before keyword, it just adds some extra steps, basically, right? It will work. It will still work, right? So this just says, okay, you need to do some steps. So fun sweet. So this is before. Right, so does it still work? Let's check. Let's check the official documentation. Ah, yep. We need to extend. I forgot. Right. Yeah, I need to. Of course, I'm importing, but I have not. Right. So here's the thing. Right. So I need to add this. Right. So this. Okay. Oh no. Control Z. Oh, sorry. With before and after. Okay. Now it should work. All right. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. Perfect. Only thing we have to finish this part here. Right. Computer. Right. And now what can we do? What else was there? Was there anything else? Everything else was default. Starting count, game condition, right? Min move, max move, right? Is player turn, right? Everything else is boolean. Great. Right, again, so we have before and we can test now the name, right? We had this thing actually again, we're not, I'm being again, I should probably do separate. Theoretically, I should probably, I could create, should create a new class just for testing nim_i functionality, right? Of course, for unit testing, right? So, but again, that's something to move. Okay, but let's test this part here. So we can do, now we have, basically this means when this test suite is run, you have to have some initialization. So we put here, we put whatever initialization we need for testing tests in this particular suite. Okay, so let's do some one more tests, right? So let's do this test again. What can we test? There's our name. We're going to test some methods, right? Right. We return current safe, right? So let's test this one, right? Right. We could test, of course, we have clamp move. Where's our clamp move? We could test clamp move, right? We have clamp move somewhere here. Yes, let's test clamp move, right? So let's test how it works. I mean, that'd be a good starting point. So test clamp move. Right. So test. We'll call it name test clamp move. Clamp move, right? Right, and we basically, we needed, you see, we needed the object. That's why we're testing an object, right? So we can do this. Assert, right? Name clamp move, right? And if say, move, let's say 7, and min is 1, max is 3, right? Equals to 3, right? So we'll do a bunch of these because I'm lazy, and I'll do, of course, so we can do 3, right? How about 0? 0 should be 1, right? And also I would say do at least 1. This, since I'm lazy, I'm doing a bunch of these, right? So 1, 2, 3, right? And, that covers everything, right? Again, it's unlikely you would run into this, right? So 1, 2, 3, right? So you actually get the moves, right? So 1, 3. This looks okay. I mean, we already had this. Okay, yeah. So this, I'm going to delete this. Okay. Again, so 5 tests basically should be enough, right? As something extra, we can do negative, right? We could just negative just in case, right? That would be something to test. Minus, say minus 1, right? Positive, that should cover, right? This again, usually when test this edge, you always want to test the edge case and of course the basic case, right? So of course you could add some big numbers if you want, right? Again, some big, this is probably good enough for start, right? Again, sometimes a test, it's something called test coverage. I mean, you can't, there are most functions, you can't test everything. Your tests are basically just sort of like canaries in a coal mine, right? They're telling you something is not right. If they start failing, that's a bad sign, right? Again, of course, you could write bad tests, right? And so let's run this test suite. We have 2 tests now, right? Yeah. So you see, it created actually game object, right? You see, it gives you actually even some output, but that's okay because we're testing this, so all our tests are working fine. What else? We'll do one more test before we. So there is also option here in the documentation, right? Right. So I'll move this here. This is test. Okay, just give you a reference if you want. Right, so also you could do after, right? Is there anything else interesting here? Nothing else was stopping class, we create, right? And we have test, right? So what else is there to adding more tests, right? Making test is pending, right? There's another way of writing, but this is, I don't use this one. I'll show you there is a way of writing it humanly, more humanly, right? You can use this describe. It's basically a language syntax. You can say describe pizza. It should start with no toppings. It should be because sometimes you write these stories in your business. You have a business application or your application. It says what it should be do. So it should start with no toppings. You of course write assertion. It should allow additional toppings, right? It should allow, and you add more and more and more, right? So you say so this like you can. It's kind of like it's more maybe more. Human-like, right? More readable, maybe, right? Again, so that's behavior-driven development, a different methodology. Again, it depends on the project. Again, which project is using. Like your project leader will, you'll have more workshops on different development, the development methodologies, right? So, anything else interesting? Right, disabling, right? But again, we don't have to run them. So. Right, so that's basically it. That is not that hard, right? Writing tests, except of course it takes time, right? It'd be nice if you have to add if you add some unit tests to your application, just to show off that you can actually do them, right? Again, it's nothing too bad. You add the dependency, and then you write them, but of course you place them in you create a package, right? Right, you don't put them here, you put them here, right? And you can keep adding tests, right? And you could run the whole test. Again, the idea is if you have separate tests, you can also run all of them at once. There was an option, I believe, here. Was somewhere you could basically run everything, I believe. Run, let's check. I think run test, you can do run single, but I think you can there's test history. Import tests from file. I wonder if you could do that. There's some other thing. You can show coverage data. What does it mean? There's also there's some extra tools for testing. There's a lot of tools for testing actually, because it's a big part of writing your code, larger projects for writing your code robustly. Okay, so that covers the basics of testing, and I'll probably give you a chance to do some tests for yourself in a moment. Thank you.